that the convict abused her trust as the pastor. That the convict had not been remorseful because as soon as he was released on bail, it is imperative that society is protected from such vices and the victims get to understand that they are indeed victims. She submitted further that the victim was in senior 3 with a great future. Due to the actions of the convict, she dropped out of school. The victim ended up being infected with HIV. The sentencing range for aggravated defilement is 35 years and above, and she prayed that he's 140 years in jail to enable him reform and enable the victim to be rehabilitated. With him free, she believes that she has to play house. That is the victim. The victim will believe that she has to play house, to keep hiding in the house. On the other hand, counsel for the defense, Sheila Chihumro, in mitigation, submitted that her client was a first-time offender and had chosen not to waste court's time any further. That he's a father of twins, he has other 2 children with another woman that he supports, and is 35 years of age, capable of reforming. She prayed that this court should be merciful while sentencing him. The convict prayed for forgiveness and said the children had now become a responsibility and he had to take care of them. He prayed for forgiveness from the mother of the victim, the court, and Jesus Christ. He stated that he would not commit any other crime. The main purpose of sentencing a convict is to make him and would-be offenders respect the law, to have law and order in our societies. In cases of aggravated defilement, like in the instant case, the sentence should have the result of denouncing the unlawful conduct of depraved and perverted minds of sexual attraction to children, which result into sexual violence against them, separating the offender from society in order to protect vulnerable children, and to promote a sense of responsibility on the convict, which will make him appreciate the harm he inflicted on his victim.
ekyamuleetera okusikirizibwa eri abaana ekyamuviirako okubasobyako n'okubaawula kuva ku kitundu n'ekigendeerwa ekyokukuuma abaana abo n'okubateekamu enneeyisa ennungi kinaamuviirako.
I have considered both the aggravating and mitigating factors as submitted by the Land State Attorney and the Land Defense Council. I must say that apart from the convict having no previous record of conviction and changing his plea after all his lies and deception were exposed, I do not find any other mitigating factor. You have not interpreted that very well. But apart from the convict having the convict was a father figure to the victim who used his position as the head of the church to take advantage of her and turn her into his sexual partner at the tender age of between 16 and 17 years. The victim's medical examination revealed that her private parts were slightly tender but well formed, and she had an old ruptured hymen with the semen flowing out when she coughed. It also revealed that she was HIV positive. The convict's medical examination report also revealed that he was HIV positive. His reckless sexual conduct led to the infection of the victim with a grave and lifelong illness. The convict was not remorseful at all throughout the trial, but was brazened. He completely denied knowing the whereabouts of the victim and her sister, even after the court decided to go to his home to establish whether AS and AN were there. This court discovered pictures of the victim and her sister posing together with the accused hanging on the wall in his bedroom. The accused still insisted on lying to this court that he didn't know where the victim was, and eventually the police had to break the padlock of the church and found the victim and two babies, who were stated to be twins, hiding inside the church under the staircase.
n'abaana babiri nga abaali bagambibwa nti balongo nga beekwese wansi w'amadaala munda mu kanisa.
It was only at the last moment, after all his lies had been uncovered, that his counsel informed the court that the convict intended to change his plea of not guilty to that of guilty.
Ku nkomero y'obulimba buno bwonna omwami ono yasalawo okutuusa yategeeza kooti nti ayagala kutuusa kyasooka okwogera okuba kwekyo nti omusango otagumanyi nti museera ekyo yali ayagala kukkiriza musango.
The convict exhibited himself as a false prophet. The Bible talks about in Matthew 7:15 that watch out for false prophets. They will come to you in sheep's clothing, but inward.
Yeraga nga omusu nga nabbi w'obulimba ayogerwako mu Matayo 7:15 bwe yagamba nti mwerinde bannabbi ab'obulimba.
They will come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ferocious wolves. By their fruit you will recognize them.
Bagenda kujja gye muli mu ddiba ly'endiga naye munda bo bajja kubeera misege.
By their fruit you will recognize them.
Naye mujja kubategeera ku bibala byabwe.
He held out as a prophet of God, who ought to have known that it is an abomination to see the nakedness of the mother and daughter, as it is written in the book of Leviticus, chapter 20, verse 14.
Yalabikanga nabbi w'obulimba ng'ekyandibadde kimanyiddwa nga kino kyali kyandibadde tekiikirizibwa okulaba obwereere bwa maama ne muwala we nga bwe kyogera mu kitabo ky'Abaleevi 2:14.
He held out as a prophet of God. Okay? You should interpret exactly what I have written. He had sexual intercourse with the victim's mother, the complainant in this case, and then the victim, who was her young child, whom she sent to the convict for spiritual guidance and service as a choir member at the church. He desecrated the holy ground of Faith Center Church of All Nations as he defiled the victim right from the same premises. His sexual immorality right within the church premises was the true manifestation of his ferociousness as a false prophet, turning the mother and daughter into a relationship akin to co-wives.
Kyali kyoleka bungi ye ne Isaayi nga omusumba w'obulimba bwe yafuula maama ne muwala we n'atandika okubaganza n'abafuula nga mukazi mudde na mudde.
He did not only stop at this, but went ahead to bluff this court when it went to the locust visit at the scene of crime.
Yakoma ku kino kyokka naye agenda mu maaso nga alimba kooti eno bwe yagenda mu kifo ekyo.
Even up to the last minute, he manipulated his victim, who now happens to be a young mother of 2, telling her to hide herself in the church to obstruct justice so that she does not testify. But again, like it is written in the Holy Book, to which the convict was playing around with, in Luke 12, verses 2 to 3, to wit, that there is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or nothing that will not be made known. What you have said in the dark will be heard in the daylight, and what you have whispered in the ear in the inner rooms will be proclaimed from the roofs.
azanya nakyo mu Luka 12 olunyiriri olwokubiri okutuuka ku lwokusatu nga lugamba bwe luti tewali kintu kyonna kyakwekebwa ekitajja kumanyibwa oba ekintu kyonna ekyogeddwa mu nzikiza ekitasobola kuwulirwa n'ekyogedde mu kyama ekitasobola kuwulira muntu yenna
The convict, known as Prophet Kimera Elijah James, who was supposed to share this word of truth to the victim, forced the victim into sexual intercourse with him in his car in the church parking at night. Or his wicked and evil schemes have been exposed to the public. Sexual violence against children is not only rampant in Kampala High Court Circuit, but in all circuits in Uganda. All criminal session cause lists in this court have about 70% cases of sexual violence against children, which calls for a deterrent and retributive sentence. The relationship between the convict and the victim was that of a guardian, and the accused knew he held a position of authority over the victim and took advantage of it. He had the primary responsibility of taking care of the victim while she was at church under his care, but instead he abused the trust the child had in him and his position as the leader of the church by defiling her, but abused his terms of bail by continuing to defile the victim until she became of age. With all the above aggravating factors of this case, the convict actually deserves a death sentence. The accused only showed remorse at the last minute, but in my humble opinion, remorse that comes after all evidence has been laid before court is an attempt to manipulate the mind of the judge. It's not a reflection of true remorse. Being a first offender, I'll not give the maximum sentence. Aggravated defilement carries a maximum of death sentence. However, the sentencing regime changed with the landmark constitutional case of Attorney General versus Susan Chigula and 417 others, where the mandatory death sentence was declared unconstitutional, leaving court with the discretion to pass the appropriate sentence after considering the aggravating and mitigating factors. Sentencing guidelines for courts of judicature, practice direction of 2013, which recommend the starting point of 35 years of imprisonment for aggravated defilement with a sentencing range of between 30 years and death.
guno omusango gwavaamu ebirazi ebigobererwa nga baba abantu ebibonerezo era nga bagamba batajja ku myaka 35 oba wakati wa 3 n'okusindika omuntu kalaba.
This court, however, owes a duty of care to the vulnerable children out there. They need to be protected by passing deterrent sentences.
naye kooti erina obuvunaanyizibwa okukuuma abaana abali wabweru eyo nga iwa abantu ekibonerezo ekinaabasobozesa ekinaasindika obubaka.
Defilement at the church is like defilement in homes because pastors are considered to be spiritual.
kunonoza Katonda ne mu bwanga bwaffe obwa Kristo.
In the result, he is sentenced to 40 years of imprisonment, less the period he has spent on remand, which is the time before he was released on bail and the time after his bail was cancelled, which will be calculated mathematically and deducted from the 40 years subject to remission.
N'olwekyo asindikibwa mu kkomera okumala emyaka 4 ng'ebbanga lyali kwalimanga ligenda kuddibwako ng'ebbanga eryo yali mu kkomera nga tannaba kweyimirirwa n'eryo ebbanga lyabaddemu yakamala okusingisa omusango.
He is free to appeal against the sentence only, but not conviction, because it was on his own plea of guilty. If he is not satisfied in 14 days. Prisons, can you tell me when the first time he was in prison, before he was released on bail, how much time was he in custody?
Era nsaba kooti empaka kisannyonnyoleko ebitonotono ebisobola okunyamba okukendeeza ku kibonerezo ekyo. Essaawa ya kaakati